The New York State Office of Addiction Services and Support, or OASAS, provides this podcast as a public service. Thoughts and opinions expressed do not necessarily represent or reflect those of the agency or state. This is Addiction, the Next Step.
Jerry Gretzinger, your host for Addiction, the Next Step, the podcast brought to you by the New York State Offices of Addiction Services and Supports. Today's episode, thanks for checking it out, by the way, we're going to be talking about prevention. And we are joined by someone who is joining us here from the Chautauqua County area. This is Melanie Witkowski. She's the Executive Director from Prevention Works. And, you know, I'm talking about, we say prevention, right? So I want to start by you introducing us to your organization and what the prevention picture is on your end.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you so much for having me today. Prevention Works, really, we've been around 50 years. We're celebrating our 50th anniversary. We were established in 1974, and really what prevention is, it's about preventing early onset of use of alcohol and other substances. You know, oftentimes when you look at individuals that are struggling with substance use, it typically is somebody that started when they were 12, 13, 14, and 15 years old, because of that brain is still developing. So really, prevention is about preventing long-term substance use concerns and other problematic behaviors that may exist.
So I think if we have parents or caregivers of any kind out there who are hearing this, they're like, well, yeah, obviously prevention. Boy, we want to keep kids from that first experimentation, right? But how challenging that must be, and how much more challenging it seems like it must be today, with the legalization of recreational cannabis and how easily accessible alcohol can be. What are some suggestions or some things that you've discovered that are helpful for people who have that direct contact with young people to help them encourage that kind of prevention?
So I think the first thing that is important for parents and also individuals that work with youth is really to focus on social emotional learning skills. I think oftentimes peer pressure is a huge reason why individuals start using in the first place. But if we can teach our kids to have the strength to be verbal and assertive with saying no to different substances, but also the courage to understand what their self-image is. A lot of times individuals will start using because of a low self-esteem or low image of themselves, and that's where a lot of our programming focuses on social emotional learning and substance use prevention. So oftentimes people think we're just going in and saying, just say no to drugs, right. And that's not really it. It's teaching them the skill sets to make good decisions. How do I communicate? How do I communicate with some individual on saying no to a substance? Like what are the skill sets? So we do a lot of role playing in our programming. It's actually practicing. It's putting them into a setting, giving them a scenario, and having them practice. Like practice makes perfect. Programming also focuses on conflict resolution. How do I handle these conflicts that I might be having at home? How do I handle a conflict that I'm having with a friend? So they're really life skills that could be utilized not only during the adolescent age or in elementary, but also throughout their adulthood. These are skill sets that we all need.
And so you're talking about this, and I'm thinking, when people hear prevention, especially when OASAS is hosting this podcast about prevention, we're talking about skills that can be acquired. People will automatically think, oh, it's about being able to resist, using substances. But like the things you're talking about go far beyond that, but all, I'm assuming, play a role in that moment when someone says, hey, you want to try this?
Right, and it's not just for substance use. It might be an individual that's, we deal a lot with bullying in the school districts. We deal a lot with the media and social media and how much kids are confronted with different things, like things they see on TikTok, and encouraging individuals to participate in different activities. So really the skills are utilized to help them be resilient in any situation that they might be confronted with.
Melanie, I want to ask you this too. I have here that you're one of the providers participating in the Comprehensive Youth Education and Prevention Pilot. So it's a long name, but I want you just to explain to us what that's about and what the hopeful outcome of it is.
Yeah, so we are extremely fortunate to be a part of this pilot program. We're working with Brockton Central School District, which is one of the third highest overdose deaths in a rural community in our area. And really what the goal is of this, we call it the CPIP or CIPIP project. And really what this is making sure that every single youth has access to the programs and services that we have. So we're actually working with pre-K all the way through 12th grade so that every single student is receiving some evidence-based prevention programming. So we have pre-K program working with Incredible Years, using puppets and making not so threatening atmosphere for the kids and the youth that we're working with. Then we have the PACS Good Behavior Game, which is one of my absolute favorite programs. It's a program that helps increase self-regulation and co-regulation. And those are the two key factors of a student being successful and, preventing suicide ideation. And it's a program that's not only a substance use prevention program, but it's a mental emotional behavior program.
Let me ask you, you said self-regulation and co-regulation. For people like me who are wondering, what does that mean?
So the ability to calm themselves down, the ability to self-regulate and control how they're feeling when they're confronted with a big catastrophe or trauma that they might be confronted with. We need to be able to self-regulate. We realize that as we're going out through life, you're going to be confronted with lots of sticks and stones that are confronted with you, whether it's health, whether it's family conflict, whether it's something in your environment. So that ability to self-regulate so it doesn't get to a point where you need to grab a substance use to feel better, to escape. That's really what it's about.
So I'm also thinking too, as you talk about the age groups that you're working with, and it sounds like all of them, like you said, pre-K right up through 12th grade. Is there, I don't know, people may ask, what's the perfect age to start these conversations or, these activities with young people?
Early. Pre-K. I mean, I started in this field being a prevention specialist and working in school districts, and I can't tell you how many times a 5-year-old will bring up marijuana. They already know. They see it in their environment, especially now with it legalized. They smell it. I have my teenage daughter. What is that smell? And if my teenager daughter is smelling it, that means other kids are smelling it. So it really is a conversation that needs to start early. We talk with pre-Kers and kindergartners about medication safety. You see a medication, you don't take it just because it tastes good. I mean, we know medication can be dangerous if taken incorrectly. So those messages start at a young age.
Do you get any, pushback or concern from parents who are saying, oh, well, this my 6-year-old child, they don't know this stuff. I don't want them hearing about it yet. And I'm assuming that's got to be part of it.
Yeah, over the last probably 20 years that I've been in the field, I can count on my hand how many people that have said, this is a concern, why are you having a discussion about it? And it's all age appropriate. The science, prevention is a science. And, they have the data, prevention's all about the data. We talk the data, then we walk the data. Yeah. And it shows that these kids know a lot at this age. We don't go into a classroom and talk about marijuana. We talk about alcohol, we talk about medication safety, we talk about tobacco and smoke and what can they do to prevent themselves from even smelling smoke when they're in the area. It might be go outside, it might be go into another room, even asking an adult to go into another room. We do what's in my mouth, not in my mouth. Should alcohol be in your mouth? No, it shouldn't, because your brain's not developed yet. So those conversations are important.
I think all the work that you're doing is terrific. It's so critically important. I just remember, my kids are all pretty much grown now, but also thinking when they were very young, you got to have these conversations with them, because if I don't do it or some trusted adult doesn't do it, someone else might introduce it to them, and not sure what they'll tell them about it.
I think having those conversations, regular conversations, whether it's around a dinner table, while you're taking somebody to soccer or dance, which is typically what I was doing with my kids, it's use teachable moments. You see a sign or a light, or you see somebody that's using, or you smell that smell, have a conversation about it. What is it? What does it do? How is it going to impact you? So not just say no, but know what you're getting involved with. KNOW is what I say. Yeah. It's so important. I think the more we have those open communications with families, the better off we'll be.
Yeah. And when my kids were teenagers, I always anticipated the rolling eyes, but it didn't stop us from trying, at least.
Yes.
Melanie, thank you so much from the Prevention Works in Chautauqua County. Good luck with the continued work and with the study. I think this is, again, great work you're doing.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And thank you for joining us on this edition of Addiction, the Next Step, brought to you by OASAS. If you have any questions about substance use or services or supports that are available, you can go to our website, oasas.ny.gov. Our Hope line, 8778-HOPE-NY. And if you have questions about prevention works, we'll include all that information, the links, the phone numbers for you in this post. Again, thanks for checking us out. Until we talk to you again,